Portugal Golden Visa program allows you as an investor to invest in private equity and venture capital funds. And that structure has been available since 2018. We first started seeing the statistics available though in 2019, when just more than 3 million euros worth of investment-related golden visas were approved by the SCF. That number has grown significantly, and the last numbers that were available through the SCF has been that 50 million euros worth of investments was approved in 2022. Now, I know from personal conversations with the top 3 fund managers in the market that they've all received between 70 and 80 million euros of investment last year. And the reason we're not seeing that come through in the statistics is simply because the applications hasn't been approved yet and recorded by the CEF. CEF is the immigration department in Portugal. Good morning. Today I'm going to investigate how the fund management industry in Portugal works, specifically when you want to use a fund investment to qualify for the Golden Visa program. My name is Alana, I work for Migronis, and we are a global citizenship and residency by investment company. There are broadly 4 categories of private equity and venture capital funds available that you can invest in to qualify for your Golden Visa. The first one is typically funds that invest in real estate, and this can include residential real estate, commercial real estate, as well as mixed-use development. The second category, the fund managers will focus more on ESG, so environmental, social, and governance factors. The third category is very interesting. There's a couple of agricultural funds available today, and I'll specifically focus on 1 or 2 of those funds in the next series. The last category that we have is loosely combines a few different sectors in the market, funds that invest in IT, that invest in healthcare, and there's even today a fund that has been approved specifically to focus on crypto investments. This is our first video specifically focusing on private equity and venture capital fund investment for the Portugal Golden Visa program. There are some funds in the Portuguese market that offer you the opportunity to both invest at a fund level and ultimately own the underlying asset. So this is quite an interesting investment strategy and structure, and I'm going to meet one of the fund managers that offer this investment opportunity to see exactly how it works. I'd like to say that fund management is a bit more organized than golf on occasion, isn't it?
Yes, it has to be.
And how did you find your return? You lived in the US for so long,
well,
and now you're based in
For me, it was
Cascais.
easy because I've been going back and forth since 2014.
Okay.
So I was spending more and more time here. So I had time to adjust. For my wife, it was a big shock.
Okay. Is she American
no,
or
she's
Portuguese? Oh, she's also Portuguese.
Yeah,
okay.
But I think she became American after living there for 25 years. Probably. She's having a really hard time adjusting here, just because she's lived half of her life there. We've made wonderful friends, so we understand it's not easy to
Yeah, to uproot yourself. I think that's important for our investors as well. People have this romantic idea of moving to a beautiful European country, but I think that's why we have to be, one has to be honest about your experiences. So thank you for actually saying that it was, it's not always just easy.
No,
there are things that's hard about this.
Having said this, I have to say that Portugal is actually an easy country to move into because Portuguese are quite friendly and it's easy to make friends. They will welcome you. If you make a little effort to get to know people, you will be, in a short amount of time, you can find a nice group of friends,
That I have found myself, yes. Yeah. I don't feel like an expat the same way I felt in other countries. I've lived in 4 other countries. And this is the first time I don't feel as if I'm an expat.
That's a fact. We have a lot of friends that have moved from other countries, and they all feel so much so that they end up staying.
Yes.
We have friends that they were sent here to work for their companies, and then after 4 years, when it was time to move on, they said, "Well, I'm not moving. I'm staying." So
there we go.
So I'm putting 500,000 euros and all you're going to give me is a piece of paper, you know? So, you know, where's my security? So we had to come up with a concept that, that would, you know, where the fund would be attractive for them.
Yes.
So what we did, we created a system where the client invests in the fund, but at the same time, he has the option, if he invests in our case, in Class B units of participation, in parallel to investing in the fund, he has the option of purchasing a real estate unit that belongs to one of the fund-owned companies. So he invests in the fund, at the same time he buys a property, except he's not going to pay for their property right away. So he has two investments. One of them he has paid for, which is the fund. The property, he goes to deeds on the property, but there's going to be a mortgage. No interest mortgage, but he now owns the property, he hasn't paid for it, and it almost works as a collateral.
So we're going to go and view some apartments with our hosts today. These apartments are for sale. We'll do a walkthrough of the actual apartments to show people what it is that they're investing in and where they can eventually own the property or just come and visit and stay if they are tourists. So we'll be going outside into the actual development to have a look at the resort units.
This is the main hotel complex over here on this side, and we've just walked past the pool. And then on the left-hand side, there are 128 apartment units, all of which are also used by the hotel. So the hotel itself has 39 suites, but then they have an additional 128 units, 64 are studio apartments, and 64 are one-bedroom units. Nature literally surrounds this property. You know, towards the west side, you literally have the Atlantic Ocean. And right behind us and behind the hotel, there is the largest European saltwater lagoon. It's 5 kilometers long by 1 kilometer.
Oh, lovely.
And as you said, you know, people do a lot of water sports, but within the area as well, people do a lot of cycling. And the lagoon area is also a very unique ecosystem. Okay. So there's over 100, I think 125 types of birds that have been detected in that area specifically.
That's
and you can even find flamingos during the winter time.
Oh, beautiful.
So they migrate here during the winter.
Just remind me, what is the price of the units here? We have studios and we have one bedroom units, and you mentioned that they're all the same price regardless of where they're located. How much does a one bedroom apartment sell for?
So the one bedroom apartment sells for 500,000.
Okay.
And the studio unit for 350,000.
They go for the Class B because, you know, now they have an asset that they can enjoy, because not only you get a return, you get to spend 6 months per year.
6 months, 6 weeks.
6 weeks per year.
6 months, I'll invest as well.
No, 6 weeks per year,
yes.
At no cost to you, where you have, you know, being 3 weeks in the high season and 3 weeks in the low season. So that makes it very attractive.
Yes, yes.
So that's a month and a half that you can come over and enjoy.
Yeah, indeed.
And as long as you book it, you know, 90 days in advance.
Okay,
you're guaranteed to have a spot.
And that then doesn't affect the client's yield.
No, that has nothing to do. That's already factored in. That's already factored in. Yeah, and there's no problem there whatsoever.
How do you explain to a client that wants some diversity in terms of risk diversification? How do you address that question?
We have a pipeline of product that we are investing in or we're going to invest in. So that's something that we actually share with all the clients.
Okay.
We have a fund teaser that explains how the fund operates and which products that we have in the pipeline to invest in. So
Okay, so if a client invests in a share now, they're only investing in a share of what owns Royal Aberdosh. But could there eventually be other assets?
They're invested in the fund as a whole. So
Okay, and the fund will invest in other
the fund will
other
invest
assets.
in other assets, yes. Yeah.
Despite the fact that you have the ability to then own this particular unit,
Yes.
your fund will still be
Yes.
investing in
and,
other
and,
assets?
and also, keep in mind that most people that go for Class B UPs or units of participation, their idea is to divest early. So they're going to exit the fund early.
Yes.
So what they want is at the end of year 6, they sell their units, they get their property. Now they have the money or the assets because
Yes.
they can sell the property, and they're no longer invested in the fund. They don't have to wait 10 years to exit the fund, and they've run the course of their golden visa. They've either applied for PR, permanent residence, or citizenship,
Yes.
and they no longer need to be invested. The fund has a term of 10 years, and this is the other thing. By going this route, it allows a client to exit the fund early. So at the end of 6 years, there's going to be an agreement where we have a financial company that will buy his shares at par, so for the same price he paid for them.
Yes.
And by doing so, that financial company will in turn pay for his property. So he's given us the shares, now we pay for his property, he owns the property free and clear, and he's no longer invested in the fund.
Can you share a little bit more about the nationalities that are invested in your funds?
It's interesting. They're very varied. So we have a lot of investors from the Middle East. Investing
When you
in the
say
fund.
a lot,
I can't give you
How
percentages,
many?
unfortunately,
Okay.
without asking our investment manager to break that down. But I can tell you that the Middle East last year was by far the biggest driver. So people from Egypt, from Dubai, from Lebanon,
Okay.
Jordan. So we had a lot of investors from the Middle East and from South Africa.
Okay.
So interesting enough. Then you have also American investors, and that's growing tremendously. American investors are discovered Portugal, and they're coming back. They were here in the 60s,
Yes.
In a big way, and now they've come back. But a lot of them, you see, that's an interesting point, is that these investors in the United States, they are looking, many of them, to relocate here. So you do have, we have properties that we rent out, not just seasonally, but also on an annual basis. And one particular asset that we have, 50% of it is rented out between Americans, Germans, Dutch. And it's interesting to see that the Dutch and the Germans are effectively digital nomads, wealthy digital nomads who would like to live and work at a distance and can travel
Yes.
within Europe very quickly. The Americans are retirees. These are people that have a solid income, and they've chosen Portugal to live in, I suppose.
And you've seen your American business pick up in the last
In
the last year?
Yes,
or?
and so has the Golden Visa element. In the last quarter of the year, they were the biggest investors in the Golden Visa program.
Okay,
the
just
last
in
2 months.
funds or
No,
across the board?
I haven't got that statistic broken down in funds, but across the board.
I hope you all remember my good friend Christian that was so kind to share some information with me a little while ago on the Portugal Golden Visa program. He's agreed to meet with me again on this glorious hot summer's day in Lisbon, and he's going to share some facts with me about how the fund industry has changed, why people are choosing to invest in it, and just what the statistics look like. So if you can please like this channel, subscribe to it, send me a WhatsApp because I really need a break now. It is very hot.
You've seen a similar exponential rise in the number of investors that invest in the Golden Visa fund option. So in 2018 you had 0, 2019 only 7, 2020 48, 2021 81, and in the first 4 months of this year you already had 84. So we're looking at least a tripling, maybe a quadrupling of the number of fund investments, and the same is true. The same is true for the amounts invested. So this year will probably be triple or quadruple 2021.
Okay.
So
that is interesting. So despite the fact that the fund investment amount has increased, we're seeing an increase in interest in the fund area specifically. Why is that?
I think it has to do with the rise of Americans, and I think that Americans are familiar with the asset class of funds to an extent that the Chinese and the Indians maybe are not. You have to remember that in the United States, people have been trading securities for more than 200 years, whereas in China, that only started in the 1990s, right? And so the Chinese like to invest in asset classes they understand, and they understand real estate. They're a little bit more hesitant when it comes to funds. But Americans are very comfortable with funds.
Because they understand the market. I think the interesting thing about investing in real estate is that so often people see the numbers, they see invest 280,000, but they don't take into account the IMT, the stamp duty, the notary fees. They don't take into account those additional fees. And when you're investing in a fund, and that's certainly been my experience, the fund is a much cheaper way to get into the market if you're investing in that 500,000 euro category, because there's no transfer taxes, there's no additional taxes. If you're investing 500,000, you're investing 500,000. Right. Sometimes a fund will have a subscription fee of 1 or 1.5% that has to be paid. And then the main difference between the fund and the real estate market is that if you don't live in Portugal, the yield that you earn, so that annual income that your fund generates, is taxed at 0%.
And even if you live here,
if you live here, it changes a little bit. If you live here and make Portugal your tax home, then that yield will be taxed at 10%, which is still significantly lower than the 20 to 28% that you pay on a real estate investment.
That's right.
So that for me makes a fund investment a really attractive. If we think about how people look at funds, in my mind, it's investing in a fund has always been something that should be a diversification of your risk. But in your experience, the typical fund that's being registered in Portugal, are they investing in different asset classes? Are they focusing on one thing only?
Well, okay, typically the funds that are Golden Visa funds focus in one specific area, one specific asset class. But what we see a lot is that the individual investor, he doesn't have to invest the 500,000 in a single fund. He can spread that risk over a variety of funds. So he might put something in, a small part in some innovative, high-tech, relatively high-risk type of fund, venture fund, and then he might put a bigger share of it in something more conservative, more prudent. So the diversification, the risk reduction, I think happens on the individual investor level rather than within a fund.
Okay, so you can invest in more than one fund when you make this make this decision.
Yeah.
Okay, that is good to know. Thank you for sharing your time with me, and thank you for helping me to understand this topic better. If you like this video, then please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and you might even see my guest in one of our next videos. Please use the number below and send me a WhatsApp if you want to have specific information. I'll respond to you. Thank you very much. Let's go have some lunch.
Oh, no, sorry, I can't.
No, you can. You can. For the video purposes, you can.
Oh. I thought you said let's go.
So maybe you can recommend another Portuguese restaurant for us to go to.
I have plenty of recommendations.
Excellent.
Yes.
Let's go find some lunch. One of the challenges that fund managers have, and I've certainly spoken to different ones about this, is the way in which they structure the portfolio, specifically for American investors. American investors are a lot more sophisticated in terms of the financial instruments that they're used to investing in, especially the costs associated with that. So in the US, you can invest at a very low cost, so the fees that are charged are regulated and quite low.
the studio units are equipped with a kitchen. And for example, the counter is made out of silverstone, which is a very durable material. You have a stove, an exhauster, and then you also have an oven that is multifunctional. So it's actually an oven as well as a microwave.
Okay.
And that gives you more space.
Oh, this is lovely. So every unit has its own private little balcony.
So this is the
What's a
balcony
fantastic
for the
view.
studio apartment.
And the typical size of these one studio apartments?
So the studio apartments are around 60 square meters, and they include the terrace and the bathroom and this section over here.
Yeah.
Before this event, yeah?
I'm an expatriate, but I'm still a patriot. You know, I still love my country.
Yes,
And I think there's a lot of amazing things about America. So in no way am I trying to, you know, say I'm moving away and turning my back on it and, you know, I'm exiting America. It's just, I'm just looking for more opportunities and more options in the world.
Do you find that's actually a concern for people when you start this conversation with them, that they're worried that they'll be perceived as not patriotic? Because I get that in South Africa.
Yes, very much so. And I think sometimes I hesitate to tell other Americans, you know, what my plans are because they look at you strange. Like, how could you leave? You know, it's like abandoning your family or something.
Yes.
And I try to explain to them, no, it's just widening your options. It's not, you know, it's not a hard break. It's not like I'm leaving America and never coming back.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, one more opportunity in life to experience. But also, I think when people start looking at what's the actual cost. I mean, if you do a Golden Visa, you know, it's a property investment. And, you know, oftentimes, you know, they say, well, you know, I was considering maybe buying a second home in Florida. But why not buy one in Portugal? You know, it's just another flight. You know, it's just getting on a plane and going somewhere and being somewhere kind of unique and different. And so I think it's just the ability to travel is easier now than ever before. And I think Americans are maybe, you know, waking up a little bit. You know, America's such a big country. People kind of get tunnel vision. They only see inside of America. But I think increasingly Americans have become more aware of the outside world and different opportunities. So.
Yeah.
There's not necessarily an expat community like like Dubai or other places around the world that I understand.
Yes, where you have specific areas where the expats congregate.
Yeah, that's what I've seen so far. So I think, and that's a sign that the Portuguese are very welcoming, and they welcome all foreigners into the country really well. So for me, that's what I've experienced. There's no real set areas where expats focus on.
Okay, not like they have compounds, for instance, in parts of the Middle East where expats would go and live.
Exactly.
And have you found, as an Australian, that you found any local supermarkets that sell specific products that Australians love?
It's funny you say that. I saw a Vegemite on the shelf.
Vegemite?
It was very expensive. It was very expensive.
Must be at the GB shop.
It was in Cascais. I had to buy it.
So you made the family happy, taking Vegemite home?
Well, the family doesn't necessarily like Vegemite. I'm the only one who likes Vegemite.
You're the Vegemite
so I was
fan.
happy.
All right.
Family not so much.
Isn't there something like Tim Tams? Tim Tams, there we go.
I haven't seen them
you
here.
Haven't seen Tim Tams?
I'm sure they'll come soon.
So that will help our friendship if I can find you some Tim Tams.
Absolutely, please. Yeah, let me know.
And have you found any Australian wine here, for instance?
The Australian wine, I've seen a little. Yes, I've seen Australian wine. I've seen US wine. Interestingly, obviously Italian, French wine. So they've got that selection. But Portuguese wine is very good, very good wine, especially from the Douro Valley, which I've been to, which is stunning. There's a good selection of wine here. That's for sure.
Yes, for sure. I suppose we don't really want to keep on drinking the wine from home. If you can explore the different wine regions.
That's true. That's true.
That was a beautiful, relaxing experience. a Thai massage with a little bit of Ayurvedic influences, using a rebalancing wooden, it looks like a little chisel that they use to tap the different nerve points. So that was really interesting. I've never had that done before. I finished with a cup of Ayurvedic tea and a lovely biscuit, I guess to recover the energy after the massage. The rooms are beautiful. They're very classically appointed. The music is beautiful, background, nice and quiet. And the relaxing room where you are taken afterwards looks out over this beautiful garden behind me. So it really is a relaxing experience. What's interesting about this hotel and the development that's available here for our clients is that you can make both a good investment and combine it with different experiences, with the golf, with the lake, with all the water sports, and then you can also enjoy the facilities at the spa in the hotel. So it's a nice combination for clients looking for either a sporty holiday or just pure relaxation, depending on what it is that people are looking for. Do you think that a fund is then lower risk, or how would you convince a client that's sitting in front of you
that
they should invest in the fund or in a property?
If you're investing in a pure venture capital fund where you're investing in startups or something like that, then I would say no. I'd say that's a higher risk. Yes. In a property-centric fund, that the capital is deployed safely and predominantly without any ridiculous leveraging, and is very carefully managed with a well-defined prospectus and rules and regulations that make it the process very stable, if you like, or
yes.
in stable policies. That's much more interesting, because your upside is, your risk is mitigated and distributed by the fact that the assets and the asset classes that we're investing in the real estate side, are in areas with up-and-coming opportunities. Yes. Whilst very often, if you're investing in pure real estate and at the lower end, you're investing in areas that there's a reason why it's cheap. You're investing in areas where the upside is not necessarily, it's not an area that's very up and coming. It's an area that demographically may be somewhat compromised, and so you want to have as much exposure to the real estate appreciation.
So how can a client check when they're starting to do their assessment of different funds and different offers in the market? Is there a platform where they can check that the fund they're dealing with is actually registered, is regulated? How do people that are novices to both investment market and Europe and Portugal, how do they check that they are dealing with a legitimate investor that is regulated? Is there a platform?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the CMVM is the Portuguese regulator, yes. The SEC equivalent, in the US. And you can actually go onto their website and look up the specific fund in question and see that they're properly regulated. So it's all there. They should be regulated, and any investor looking to invest in a fund should absolutely make sure that that the fund is regulated.
Yeah. There we go.
Is that it?
This is how it goes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Oh, mission accomplished. But this looks like a very nice sleeper couch, if you like. Absolutely. So many of them are not great quality.
Should we see how big it is if we lay on it? Should we see how long it is?
Yes.
Let's have a look. So it does fit too.
There we go.
I think I could sleep here for a moment.
All right. Okay, we're done. And then how do you deal with the yield income on the fund? Because the client, until he exits, is invested in a yield. Or in a fund, so he gets a yield.
Yes.
Not a rental income.
Two potential streams of income. One is guaranteed, the other one is not. On the fund side, private equity funds in Portugal cannot offer a guaranteed yields. So there is a target yield in our fund is 3% a year.
Okay. Is that because it's legislated that you're not allowed?
Yes,
you're not allowed to
you're not
offer
allowed
a guarantee.
to. And
Okay.
in the case of investors that decide to go for Class B unit or shares or units of participation, because they have the option to buy a property and because they're going to get a guaranteed return, they don't get any yield.
Okay.
Okay, so
the guarantee return is at the end of the term.
They invest in the fund. They now own units of the fund.
Yes.
Class B units do not offer any sort of yield. But because they invested in Class B, they can buy the property. When they buy the property, that property offers a guaranteed return, in the case of Orbidus here, offers a guaranteed return of 5% a year for 5 years.
Because of the property, not at
Exactly,
the fund level.
not at the fund
okay.
level. Now, they will sign a management agreement with us where it's a 10-year management agreement. The first 5 years are guaranteed at 5% per year. The remaining 5 years are going to be at, there's going to be a 50-50 split of the net operating income.
Okay, so basically market related, but
Yes.
shared with the operating company.
Share with the operating company. Whatever net profit the company makes is going to be shared at 50-50.
So the American story, I think, is for the next year or so is going to be the biggest story in our industry. And just anecdotally, when I walk along the Esplanade from Cascais to the office in Estoril, that is predominantly the language I hear people speak. So there's a lot of young couples, a lot of families walking, a lot of women power walking, and they're American. You can hear them. They're a little bit louder than the other people, but you can so obviously hear the accent. And everybody's happy to be here. I haven't heard anybody complain about the process. Obviously there's challenges. I've met a few American ladies specifically in Cascais, and they're all happy to be here. And they're moving here because of the cost of living and the access to good health care.
If you're on your own, you can easily pay, $3,000, $4,000 a month for your health insurance.
Really?
Yes.
Wow, that is quite.
And
that is quite
with a
nice.
huge deductible. Typically now the deductible is around $8,000 a year, meaning that your first $8,000
is for your own expense.
For your own expense.
Okay.
In comparison, here, I was paying about $3,300 a month for a family of 4. I had an $8,000 deductible. Right now, for 3 people, because my daughter is in California and my son came with us, I'm paying less than $300 a month.
Sure. Yeah, it's
it's 1/10.
That's a very big difference.
And
that's a paycheck for a lot of people.
Yeah, and with no deductible. So I have.
And the quality of healthcare is quite good. Yeah.
Here is very good, absolutely. And and that's something that, which is a huge benefit in my view. Once you get your visa, you're immediately entitled to the National Health Service. So if you don't want to pay for insurance, you have government subsidized healthcare.
Yes.
As a matter of fact,
so you actually have the option of not even paying the
$300
or euros that you're paying
you pay
at the moment.
€5. That's all you pay. You need a heart transplant, it costs you €5.
Okay.
So
that makes a big.
it makes a huge difference.
This apartment is around, I think it's just over 80 square meters.
Okay.
And in addition to this, double bed, you also have a sofa bed in the living room. So technically, a family of 4, a couple and 2 kids would perfectly, feel comfortable here.
I love the big walk-in showers as well. This is not very Portuguese, I must say. I found all over Portugal still very many bathtubs that you have to climb into. So I see there's been a nice combination of how the developer has used different cultural influences. So you mentioned a French designer. The floors look like French oak as well.
Well, that is true. It was either a decision of the architect and the interior designer potentially, but the floors are in fact floating wood made out of French wood as well, so it's really good quality, very good quality material.
How does the fee structures of a fund compare to purchasing real estate, for instance?
That's a good question. The real estate side, you have the IMT taxes, you have stamp duty, which is quite high in Portugal, especially in hospitality. Stamp duty in hospitality is 6.5% of the value of the asset. Now, that's non-existent when you invest in the fund. So the closing costs of a real estate investment in Portugal is high. You have to count on another 1 to 1.5% for legal notary fees, etc. Okay. And so there's no comparison. I mean, it's in and out in a fund is much.
So the fund investment
is you have
amount is basically
you don't
your
have any
cost.
onboarding fee from our end.
Yes.
So there's nothing in that respect. There are obviously annual management fees, but that's any fund manager will charge those.
Yes. And what are your management fees?
Those vary depending on fund to fund. So they could be as little as 1% to 1.5% of the assets under management.
And do you charge performance-based fees?
On some funds, yes. On others, no. So it depends on the type of fund. On some funds, we would have a performance-based fee, for example, anything over and above a threshold of, say, 40% upside.
Yeah.
So if we up to the first 40% of capital, return on capital, we would at the end apply a waterfall basis where we would get a percentage of the upside as long as it's over and above a threshold, which normally is about 40%.
Okay, so you'll only start charging fees once you've reached a certain level of return.
Correct. This building here, they don't have a sign outside on purpose. It's Google.
Oh, really?
Okay, so they don't want anyone to know. Everybody knows. Okay.
Cool.
But,
we can do my entry over there.
Okay.
In front of the Google building.
You can. This is the Google staff in Portugal. So this is where they are.
Okay.
Okay.
The majority of tourists go to Óbidos. It's a medieval town. It's built around a walled castle. In fact, it was built around the 10th century by the Moorish settlers. And eventually, I think in the 12th century, it actually, as Portugal conquered more and more land, it became a Portuguese settlement eventually.
How do they then deal with if they're actually moving here? Do they make a second investment to purchase the family home, or do they rent?
I think they do a combination of things. We're seeing them doing a combination of things. Some of them, they invest in the fund and then they will rent for the first couple of years because they don't want to commit buying a home right away. They want to test the water, see if they like living in that particular area, how it is to be here or there, and then once they know the 2 or 3 different areas, they can make a decision and then invest in a property that they really like.
From a client's point of view, if they come to Portugal, should they be worried initially about not understanding Portuguese?
Not at all.
For that initial investment decision, because that's a long way from having to pass your test before you get citizenship.
No, not at all. And one of the things I first picked up on in Portugal is that most people here speak fantastic English. So English is omnipresent. Everyone speaks English here, especially the professionals and in the real estate sector.
Yes.
So that for the investors is no problem. And there's more and more foreigners who are working here professionally. English-speaking, native English-speaking foreigners who are working here to facilitate if that ever comes up with the English.
Yes,
barrier.
but don't you find that's actually a hindrance in some way, because everybody speaks English, you're never forced to speak Portuguese, so
Well,
how will you ever learn to speak proper Portuguese?
That is a problem. That is a problem. So sometimes I have to force everyone to speak Portuguese to me so I learn.
If you enjoyed this video and you would like to have more information about this topic or any other Golden Visa topic, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, or send me a direct WhatsApp and I will respond to all your questions directly. Thank you.